Good. Right. I don't know. I don't know where to start with you, really.
Can I start at puberty?
No, I think so. Normally, podcasts will. I think the longest one we've done was an hour and 45 minutes.
Okay, well,
We're going to go career scope, not pre-career scope. So we want to touch on first where you got into telecoms because you're.
Okay, you don't want to talk about me internet dating for 15 years.
15 years.
Yeah,
we're touching on internet
I think we ought to
Yeah,
because
let's do
that's my very serious point about life, really. Because let's start further back. Yeah. Originally, I started off selling cake decorations.
Roger.
Now, that was really. Now we're going to say Roger after everything here.
Unfortunately, yeah, that's my really bad habit as well.
Okay, we're going to stop that one. Okay.
Yeah, okay, we'll pause that.
I'm going to have to pick you up every time you mention Roger.
Okay.
Now we won't do okays either. Right? We're going to keep this.
I'll pause.
I'm a
you
sales
talk.
trainer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So yeah, no.
Sorry.
So yeah, I started off doing cake decorations on the back of my scooter because I got kicked out of school with no qualifications, and Daddy made me go and do a job. And then I got offered this job to sell a thing called a calculator.
Yeah.
And this calculator must have been about 18 inches wide. It was a Casio one with those old not LED, but the lights with all the wires inside them for the numbers. And they were £512 for a calculator, and it did less than a little tiny free one you get today. But within about 6 months, they came out with a calculator you put in your hand.
Yeah.
And it was £120, and it was called a Toshiba calculator.
Yeah.
And with this calculator, you could make it work properly, but it was £119. So we used to sell it on a 3-year lease.
A calculator?
A company called Cedar Leasing.
What year?
Wow, now we're going back, aren't I? Because I might say this once or twice.
Yeah.
But I'm nearly 70, you know, so we've got to go back at least 50 years when it first came out.
Yeah.
So we would go door knocking with our little calculator in our hand, and you'll put it at reception. And, of course, they didn't know what it was, and they'd take it through the boss, and he would then come back and say to you, well, how do you work it? And you had to explain it's 12 times 12 equals.
Yep.
And it was wicked.
Yeah.
And I remember getting my first order from a company called Crescent Engineering in Leatherhead. And I ran to the local phone box and rang me mum and told her I got my first order.
And how many was it?
Just only for one calculator. It was a lot of money, £119. You can buy a car for £400. So it was, I think I bought a house for £9,000. So the calculator was quite expensive. And that started me off. And then this company was called BML. And in those days, it was quite large. But it was a photocopying one. Yeah. And we had the lamp on the top and the chemicals. And we used to make them. And we're in the Thames at lunchtime. Yeah. We'd be there with our, what do you call it, photocopier sort of thing, in the Thames cooling down so we could go and do our demos in the afternoon. And you had to wear a great big coat because if there was a window in the office, you had to stand in front of the window and hold your coat out to stop the light coming in. Yeah, and I made some serious money in photocopiers. Then I set up a photocopying business myself. Yeah. And then that went very well for 10 years. And then I sold it back to my original company that was a public company then. Yeah. And that was called the Southern Business Group. But I set up Benworth when I was 19. That was a big company. Sold a bit of that. Set up major business machines. So I played with the photocopiers and did very, very well.
And that was in the days of doing photocopiers over long year leases.
Oh, we've done
pay per print.
We would do it per print, and they had liquid in them. They had plain paper. We had 9-year leases. Yeah. And I got to tell you, we made some serious dosh, and it was really funny because then in between that, fax machines came out. Yeah. £3,500 a go. Yeah. And you used to take it in and dem it. And I said, let me send one to your mates. Well, none of their mates had fax machines. Right. So you had to take all their business cards off their clipboards in reception of all their mates, and you would go round to see them, and you would sell them on 3 months or 6 month free lease. Yeah. So their mates could have them, and they could all do it.
What was the sales process then?
Well, we'd just go and knock on the doors.
Door knocking.
I've had to do door knocking all my life. Yeah. And we know you don't go in the front door, you go around the back door. They didn't have intercoms in those days. You used to rattle on the door.
Yeah.
If they had an intercom, you would pretend you're a lorry going down the road and they couldn't hear you. So it's lots of fun.
Did you have a sales structured demo when you were selling?
Oh, exactly. It's all written out, and you had to do a copy, and you lift it up, and it flows through there, and it comes out. You hold the copy up in the air for a few minutes to dry before you give it to the customer. But we had a license to print money for many years, and then Esther Ransom and things came onto it on the Watchdog shows and things about, these pubs are doing photocopying while you wait on a 9-year lease, and they've got a 2-year tenancy agreement. Yeah. So it hit the share price quite a lot.
How long did you do print and fax for?
Sorry?
How long did you do print and fax for?
Oh, you could have them on 9-year contracts. It was nothing a problem. And it was all our own in-house rental.
Yeah. And then how long did you run that business for?
Well, I did one of them for about 10 years and about 3 years with other people.
Yeah.
That they bought me, so I had to sit on the board and drive me Bentley around and bark the money and the Rolls Royces.
Where was all this location?
All around in Croydon and around that sort of area. So we had a lot of fun. And then I got through my second wife by then, and then I met my third one that I was quite keen on, and I had 5 kids with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've still got them.
Yeah.
However, someone talked me into... I didn't want to work anymore because I'd made a few pennies. And then someone talked me into this telephone business. And
what year?
So this was about 1993, 94.
Yeah.
We'll have a go at that. And this calls and the thing called Mercury. And Mercury would actually accept everything on lease because leases were difficult. We had a smart box.
Yeah.
What was really exciting, we did cheaper calls. Oh,
no, that's the thing. Like when you had a PSN line, you plug it in the wall,
Yeah.
and it would be your first. The
Yeah.
first of LCR days. Route it through somewhere else. Don't have to pay
the real first of it.
Yeah.
But within my first few months of business, I found an estate agent in Kent that had 4 branches.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to sell to anyone. Now, look, I missed a company out. So we went into these telecoms, and I thought this is easy. And I bought 11 companies in a year.
Yeah.
But what I didn't realise that if you buy a company that's struggling, it's going to use a lot of your cash up. And then someone was going to float me on the OFX, and they had all this. And these things are all hype, and they don't actually come. Everyone's looking for a trick.
Yeah.
So I lost that company. It was a bit of a shame, but I had guaranteed it. But I had enough money to pay everyone off, so no one. So I.
And where was the loss? Because you went through so much cash acquiring that many companies that quick. And then what, were you 2 wet behind the ears at that point to be able to turn them around? Or
you think you're clever enough and you can walk on water.
Yeah, and how old are you at this point?
I would have been 34, 35.
Yeah.
So I thought I could do it, but it was very difficult because you take these companies over and what you forget is, well, they've sold them last month, they've taken the money, but they haven't delivered them yet.
Yeah.
Because they haven't got the money to buy the stock. So then you're restocking these companies.
Yeah.
So I had enough of that, and I went back and had another few years off.
When you were 34, was that your first taste of acquisitions?
No, I'd done some before in the major days, but it was the first time that everything you see isn't as it really is, and you need to look into the detail. Yeah. So my old secretary came and said, "Nigel, you've got to start doing some work." Yeah. I said, "I don't really want to." She said, "Well, by this time, my wife left me." Well, it's very sad, and I think this ought to be on there, and we can put her name out so she's banned from meeting any more men. Yeah. But she left me with 5 kids. Yeah. And can you imagine with 5 kids and you want to do something? And of course, I had and still have at least 4 or 5 household staff at any one time. Yeah. But I had to bring these kids up because I had to do 3 school runs at night. And how do you do 3 school runs at the same time? Yeah. What was the need for 5? Well, we had 10 horses. Of course. As you do. So, yeah. I'm not bragging here, but if you take the Horse of the Year show, what's the biggest one? I'm aware. 3 of my kids have won it. Yeah, okay. I think I had to be quite naughty with some of the judges to get red rosettes for the kids. But we got there and they won everything. So, but I travelled the country with 10 ponies and 2 lorries for many a year. Yeah, that's right. So this is the right sort of podcast. Absolutely perfect, yeah. So she said, you better start working because you're paying for all of this staff out your savings all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a lot of money, 5 staff and
Yeah.
all the bits that go with it. There's sort of 2 grooms in there. There's a housekeeper in there. There's a gardener. I've always had a full-time chauffeur all my life.
You have.
So it just mounts up.
Yeah.
But that's life. So I've got 5 kids, so I thought I could get a bit of an income. But this time when I set up, I didn't want to do the little corner shop and go and sell them something. I wanted to sell it to people that had more opportunities. So if I got one order, they could get, if they had other sites, I could get other orders. And just by chance, we went to a little estate agent in my 3rd month in business and my 2nd appointment, because I didn't do a lot of appointments. It was an estate agent.
Yeah.
And I talked him into it, and he bought 4 telephone systems off me. But I hadn't actually got an agency at that stage to sell telephone systems.
Yeah.
But there's a gentleman called Andrew Cooper that was with NEC for years. He was originally with Nyman's, I think it was, or what the other one was called. But he's back with Nyman's now.
Yeah.
But he gave me an account.
Yeah.
And I got an order for 4 telephone systems. I thought, that's wicked. About a month later, I get a phone call from a company called Connells, I've never heard of. And they were in Milton Keynes. I thought, that's a long way to go. And she said, I want to talk to you, come up to Milton Keynes. And I said, really? You'd be up here? And I went to the door, and the lady came to meet me, a lady called Jo Jackson, who's still in the businesses today out there. And she says, your lucky day. And of course, me being a young, handsome man, thought, how lucky? And she said, not that lucky. But we went in there, and they needed a new branch that they were fitting out. And I would have been recommended by this other company that they bought.
Yeah.
And so I said, can I have some money then, please? Because I like my money up front. They say, we're Connells. I never heard of Connells. But I did a deal, and they gave me half up front and the other half post-dated for the following week when it went through. But they had 100 branches. And within 6 months, they changed all their branches over to our systems at the NEC, because the state had too many telephone lines.
Yeah.
And therefore we could reduce the number of lines because they're not all on the phone.
Yeah.
They block all the lines off because they want to talk to people.
And were you only doing, what was that company?
That was called Global 4, that's still going today.
Right.
Okay, so that was 26 years ago.
And were you only doing PBX then? You weren't doing the lines and the calls?
Oh, no, the lines and calls as well.
And who were you doing that through back then? Who was the go-to wholesaler? Like, it's all changed now, isn't it?
Well, I suppose a little bit. I didn't like Talk because they bought another dealer and never carried on pay us the commission. Yep. So we had $3,000. I always remember the $3,000. But I try to think. So there was lots of them. With cable and wireless, of course, because of Mercury, and we wanted their bits and pieces. There was WorldCom, all the different names that came out of it. So I won these calls for 100 branches, and estate agents make a lot of calls.
Yeah.
So next door to them in Milton Keynes was a company called Countrywide.
Yeah.
So the FD of one introduced me to the FD of the other, and after a bit of jiggery-pokery, in my 2nd year of business, I won £8 million worth of calls per year from the Countrywide group.
What was the margin like in calls back then?
Very small, only because I had to make a very small margin to win that account.
Yeah.
But then 480 telephone systems later,
Yeah. And the telephone systems then were NEC?
I put the NECs in there. And then Connells themselves went and bought a company called Sequence Group that had 360 branches. The day they bought me, they took me up to Liverpool, to the Liver building, to talk to me about the telephony there. Within 3 days of being up there, they gave me an order for 360 telephone systems.
What's the timescale that happened across?
Oh, in a matter of 2 years.
And then, was that on the previous fax companies, had you scaled a business that fast? Or was this learning on the...
This was a man with sold sort of 7 or 8 companies by that time.
Yeah.
And don't be rude, but if you start up a company with a few pennies in your pocket,
it's a lot easier.
You're not desperate to take an order.
Yeah.
But you know what a right order is.
Yeah.
So I think it's recorded I was doing £11 million a year turnover out my stable.
Yeah. Right, got you.
There was a beautiful indoor swimming pool at the time as well, and we did have all of our meetings in the swimming pool because that had a disco floor bar. Here's an interesting story. they sent the VAT people out to inspect me because I hadn't been doing it. And it's a true story. The little VAT lady turned up.
Yeah.
She was tasty.
Yeah.
So we, I don't know why, we ended up having a glass of wine with her.
Yeah.
Well, within about an hour and a half, she was drunken in the swimming pool. And the funny thing of the story is she had to come back the next day and collect her warrant card that she had left in there. But they did do me about a year later. But just with the VAT later.
Yep.
So, yeah, Global 4 was all about doing calls and lines and cutting people's lines down and making it more efficient because they all thought they had to have one line per person in the office.
Yeah.
But an estate agent only really uses 2 lines at any one time.
Yeah.
So it's just handling it. So then I just got in bigger and bigger into estate agents. And at one stage, we had 4,400 estate agents branches using our telephone systems.
Blinding.
But then I started this networking. That's a strange thing, isn't it?
Yep.
But this one's in Spain.
Yeah.
But it's for English companies.
What they pay you to come over? You pay?
No, I pay, but. So give you an example. The first one I went to was for garage forecourts.
Yeah.
And if you had more than 8 garages, you, the owner, and your partner get to go to the Don Carlos Hotel in Marbella.
Yeah.
It may be a 5-star, but that was 50 years ago, but they are refitting it at the moment. But it has the Nikki Beach location at the bottom of the hotel.
Yes.
What's famous in Spain.
Yeah.
I am a gold member, but we put that to one side.
Still now?
Yes, I still go for 13 years.
Do you?
So this networking is that we all see it in this country, but if you go away to a warmer country, it does make a difference.
People more relaxed.
So the owners of the business go free of charge for a week with their partners.
Yeah.
Nice hotel, they pay their own flights. But they have to give a day and a half of their time up.
Out of that week?
To sit down behind a table and a number on it, and they give people like me 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But if the boss of a company who doesn't normally see salesmen is sitting there in his shorts with a beer in his hand, it is slightly different conversation.
Yes.
So the third person I met was called Zuba, and he had 8 garages. The 12th person I met was Jamie, and he had 10 garages. Yeah. So when you go down to Portobello's, their chests come out, and I've got one more garage than you. Yeah. But when you're at Portobello's and have a few beers and go to the next row back, you get to know them all quite well.
Yeah.
So as at to date, one owns Asda.
Yeah.
Okay, and the other one owns Morrison's.
Yes.
So I met them when they're sort of 8 or 10 garages each.
No.
Isn't that incredible?
Do you service them now?
Bits of it, not all of it. It's just got too big worldwide.
Yeah.
But yes, so now I got bits and pieces in Asda and all the bits. But I did do all of their garages. When they went up to about 1,000, I did them all.
Love it. And that was Global 4?
That was Global 4.
Putting in what? Just fixed
just to fit telephones. Every time they do a new garage or do it up, the new telephone, then they go and put Subways and all the different franchises in there. So,
yeah.
And we ended up with about 2,000 garage forecourts.
Yeah.
But then you have a day off, and then you go back now, and you have the pharmacies there. So if you own more than 30 pharmacies at the event, so they fly into Spain or Portugal, change every year, you do the same thing again. Yeah. And it costs me £3,000 each one for me to go, and £3,000 everyone I take with me.
Yeah.
Our own flights, but the hotel's included.
Happy days.
So I've ended up with over 2,500 pharmacies.
Blinding.
2 days later, the dentists move in, and they've got some serious money.
Yeah, damn right.
But they're all the people with chains groups. They're not the single people.
Yeah.
So we made, it's just over 3,000, I think it is now.
Has another telecoms person ever rocked up?
Sorry? On one of them, the vets.
Yeah.
Okay? And because he was linked into their software.
Right.
But because I'm a bit of a character and I've been going for years, they give me a little bit of exclusivity.
Yeah.
And I would say half of them now are my customers. So every year I go and see my customers, and they would much prefer to have a beer with me and take the piss out of me than me travel around the country and see them.
Yeah.
But it just shows you we actually built Global 4 up on the back of that networking.
Mad. Absolutely mad.
Because you see large companies
Yeah.
with many branches, and you just don't get to talk to the bosses if you're trying to cold call them.
Yeah.
So that is why Global 4 only probably had about 2,000 customers, but I think we were up to 18,000 telephone systems.
Mental.
And the lines and calls are through the roof, but
Absolutely mental.
it changes.
Yeah.
So that's what I did, and I had some fun. Then 13 years ago, maybe more now, 15 years ago, my oldest daughter said to me, sitting on the beach, "Dad, can we sell a broadband to a residential person?"
Yeah.
And you sit and you think, how much is that going to cost? Because even then, on television every night, there's at least 4 adverts for broadband. There's Virgin, PlusNet, BT, TalkTalk. How can you build a company with all of that? So she said, "Why don't you use your estate agent's friends, Daddy?" Well, what do you mean? Well, when they move house, they're going to need new broadband. So because I supplied the 3 biggest estate agents, I'm allowed to buy them a meal every so often.
Yeah.
And they rinse me.
Yeah.
But I add it on their bill the next month, and for 13 years they haven't moaned. Unless they see this and they charge me back again. And I was talking to them about it, and I said, "This is what my daughter wants to do." And this chap from Connell Stevens stood up and said, "Well, how long is your contract?" Well, you shouldn't say that to a salesman, should you? 'Cause
Yeah.
you come back with, "Yeah, well, how long do you want it to be?" All that. I said, "No, why?" He said, "We have a problem with tenants." Go on. Well, they all enter into an 18 or 24-month contract. It was mostly 24 months.
Yeah.
He said their tenancies aren't even that long.
Yeah.
And lots of them have a break clause in that you can leave after 6 months because you want to go home to mummy or daddy, or you fall out with your partner. So he said they leave and not all of them pay their bills.
Yeah.
So next thing, the bailiff turns up at the new tenant, then he goes to the estate agent, then they don't want the hassle.
Yeah.
So could we do an agreement for just the term of the tenancy? Live the day they arrive.
Mhm.
If they stay 2 years, that's fine. If they stay a year, or if they leave after 6 months.
Yeah.
So I went outside and made a phone call to TalkTalk, and they offered to do me a 30-day contract.
Before 30-day contracts were really a thing. Well, before anyone got into the consumer wholesale space anyway, 15 years ago.
So, well, that's okay. So then you ask them how many tenants they got between them. And of course, you've got the handbags coming out because I have one. Well, they only had 234,000 tenants between them. If they moved every 2 years, okay, it's like 8,000 leads a month.
Yeah.
I thought, that's a good idea.
How were you capturing those leads at that point when this first kicked off?
Well, I wasn't, because they got them on their system.
Yeah.
So, because they did have some sort of computer systems. I'm not that old.
I'm not saying that.
You've been bloody rude.
I'm not saying
Go on, say Roger and out. That really made my day. Yeah. So, we talked about it. They said, "Yeah, okay, fine, we'll come in with you." And then I don't know why, but I gave them the shares for nothing. And so they had 24% of the shares each.
But without that offer, you wouldn't have got the deal.
But the deal was that when we sold the company, and we were going to sell it before we started, they would give the leads for 3 more years. So the incoming party buying it would be guaranteed the leads coming through.
Yep.
So I got into broadband residential.
Yeah. And this is 15 years ago.
Yeah. And my daughter did the calls during the day.
Yeah.
And she made me do them at night.
Yeah.
It's really funny. Because I didn't need it. It was just a challenge.
Yeah.
Well, even in those days, we were getting at least a 10% conversion. So I was doing 800 a month.
Yeah.
And of course, you don't get churn with this new business.
Mm.
But also, I don't get bad debt, because every one of them has been credit checked
Of course, before they get the tenancy.
by the premises.
Yeah. Yeah. Process.
So not so many people move out 6 months, and lots of them stay longer and do a second term.
Yeah.
And off I went. So within 18, 19 months, I think I was up to 10,000 customers. Ask any of the outlets out there today, could they get 10,000 customers unless City write them a cheque?
Yep.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And then this company, Spark Energy, rang me up, because they wanted me leads for the energy. And I said, well, why don't you just buy me?
Yeah.
And they were going to go public and all this stuff they talk about. You know what people do, spreadsheet calculations when they set a new business up, and we're all going to be rich because my spreadsheet says I'm going to do this. And they forget the small print. However, yeah, they came along and bought me, and they paid cash up front.
Yeah.
Well, I thought was really surprising. But in those days, they were paying like about £450 a customer.
Yeah.
And cash up front, no deferred payment. I took the money. My daughter didn't like it.
With the deal that they got the leads for the 3 years.
They did the leads for the 3 years.
Yeah.
So that was fine because they wanted a float and they needed all this continuity.
What was the relationship with the wholesaler like back then, though? Was that built out under a brand, or was it built out as TalkTalk when you were acquiring those customers?
No, it's built out as this name Home Telecom that we came up with.
Right.
But
Inventive.
yeah. But during that first year, Cable and Wireless came on and said, do you want to buy some customers? I said, well, who from? And it was Bulldog Broadband. That's one of the original broadband companies of the UK.
Yeah.
That's where it all started.
Yeah.
And they sold it to Pipex and a few other, but it ended up with TalkTalk.
Right.
Cable and Wireless's contract was coming to the end of the 5 years with TalkTalk.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to move it onto the TalkTalk base. So I did a deal.
Yeah.
It was a fun deal. I went to TalkTalk. They had all their big M&A people in the room, very, suited, booted. But they were all watching their phones because cricket was on.
Yeah.
So I did say to them it was not that important to them, and I did get up, and the phones were turned off, and we did sit down, and I did a wicked deal that's the making of mostly what I've done today. So quite fun.
And how many customers was that?
That was about 16,000.
Yeah.
But that was after the Spark, so I had this on the side. So.
Yeah.
But so the Bulldog Broadband company I own, and all the domains and everything with it, and I wanted to bring it back last year. But because of all the bulldogs in the paper and they're all getting banned and killed, they didn't think it was a good idea to bring the actual trade back again. Can you see the difference?
I can.
So, then Spark didn't want it, but they did a deal, and I won't talk about figures, but they pay me a lot of money every month to look after it. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And I didn't
And
do
why is
anything
that?
because I had the relationship for the leads that originally came in on faxes or they came in on spreadsheets. We got a thing called API today, 15 years ago, a bit above my pay grade.
Yeah.
So, how can I put it? So I just monitored it for 3 years, basically, and it went very well for them.
Yeah.
And we used to get 10,000 leads in a month.
Yeah.
And that used to give us about 1,200 broadbands. But it would give us about 6,000 energies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay?
Bad.
So in October 19, they rang me up because it was bought out by OVO and said, would I like to buy it back cheap? I did that within a week.
Yeah.
And I ended up with...
Acquired it within a week.
Yeah, because it was never left my offices. So I just took it back again.
Yeah.
Wrote a check as you normally do for these people. If you give them cash and you haven't got to look at people's EBITDA and you don't have to borrow it, it's a different game.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't need to worry anything. It was there.
Yeah.
So I was back into residential again. And this is January 20.
Yeah.
So I'm getting to the end of my story. So I thought, why have I done this? It was just the company was making 750,000 a year, and I bought it for £1 million. I thought, you have to do that.
Yeah.
In the second week of January, because I use Aurora as my billing platform that was owned as Daisy, DWS, and now called GCOM, GCOM, whatever it is.
AKJ, that one.
AKJ.
Yeah.
Chap called Derek Watson, who was there from the beginning,
Yeah.
who now works for me. So, long story.
Right.
So, they ring me up, and actually it was at this place at Birmingham. What did we just talk about?
Channel Live.
Channel Live. We're up there in Birmingham, and he says, do you want to buy some residential customers? Because I hear you're back into it. And I said, well, who is it? He said, we've got a company called Fleur Telecom that we put lots into, or TalkTalk have over the years.
Yeah.
Ex-Virgin, ex-Sky customers, all the off-net ones.
Yeah.
We got 26,000 sitting there. So I did a deal.
Yeah.
And after 3 months, I took another 26,000 customers on. Following
Under Home.
Under Home, yeah. Then KCOM ring up. I haven't dealt with KCOM for years, but they had a brand called Eclipse,
Yeah.
and that was all their off-net customers.
Outside of Hull.
Outside of Hull. So you might know Pete Tomlins, from Windsor. Tomlinson from Windsor. Okay, he used to run it with a lady called Claudia
Right. Yeah.
that I tried to buy years ago.
Yeah.
But on the day of doing the deal, they wouldn't give me the domain name, and half their customers had email addresses at Eclipse.
Eclipse. Yeah.
So if they were cancelling that, how many customers would I have lost? But 8 or 9 years later, I came back and bought it off of KCOM, and it had another 10,000 customers.
Yeah.
So in my second year, it's reported at the accounts, it's true, I made about £3 million EBITDA in my second year in business.
Consumer broadband.
In consumer broadband.
Yes.
And everyone's sort of altnets all started
Yeah.
about COVID time.
Yeah.
I started 4 months before COVID, so I had a head start on them.
Yeah.
And I thought that was quite good.
Very good.
Plus, I was getting about 15,000 leads a month in from estate agents.
Yeah.
So Talk rang me up, said, would you like to buy it? I'll just turn my phone off quickly.
Go on, you're right.
And of course, the normal thing, you dance around the handbags and everything's cheaper and you want it, etc. So that didn't go anywhere. And then I met Sir Charles up at Glen Eagles.
Yeah.
And he pulled me to one side and we had a long, long chat. And I thought he just looked at me as a dodgy bleeder, as they do.
Yeah.
He said, I'll do a deal. He said, I'll buy you on EBITDA, but I only want half of it.
Yeah.
And I want you to take the company forward and go and buy up more people.
Yeah.
Because that's what Talk used to be very successful as. There was a company called Two Circles over the years and things like this. They've done the deals, yeah. But when they get to be a PLC, to do these little tiny deals, they're so regulated and cost such a lot.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So he said, we're going to take 50.01% of your company.
Yeah.
We're going to give you 3 years. We'll pick up your SAC cost and we'll give you money for acquisitions.
Yeah.
Can you please go and grow it as fast as you can?
And that was when?
October 22.
Fine. Okay.
So it's 14 months ago.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Yeah.
Since then, in the last 14 months, I think there's 14 acquisitions we made.
Yeah.
And I hope to announce 3 more before the end of the month.
Yeah.
And I have about 5 in the first quarter of next year.
Fine.
Because I can tell you this altnet market,
This is where that's coming.
this is the important thing. 2 years ago, a year and a half ago when they bought me, because it was all about altnets. We're all in Scotland and they've all got handbags bigger than everyone else and they're taking over the world by cabling everybody.
Yeah.
I was a bit shocked I was in the wrong business. And then Trish just stood up and made her announcements about, because she was at the end of it, Tricia Harrison from Talk, yeah, the boss of Talk. She said, I understand all that, but she said, we've got over 2,900 exchanges cabled.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're a little bit ahead of all of you.
Yeah.
So can we put it in perspective slightly? Then she announced about me, but different story. And I thought, wow, how are we all going to survive in the future?
Yeah.
So I came away, and then at the beginning of last year, there was a company called Zyber
Yeah.
that was taking the world over.
Yeah.
They did 8,000 new orders in a month. And I thought, I'm missing out here somewhere.
Yeah.
And it was door knocking.
Yeah.
How that was interesting, wasn't it? It's like going back to my old days with my car box in the back of the Cortina. And of course, it's all smoke and mirrors. And when you might say 8,000, I think 500 or 600 got connected. But everyone in the industry sat up. Not on the radio, we're just doing it in the pub, I tell you the problem. There's no one who can suddenly go from nothing and bring 8,000 orders in the door.
Yeah.
You've got to have controls, compliance. You've got to have the supply of routers.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to actually provision all of those. Yeah, and it was another spreadsheet job. We're going to make a forward, and these door knockers make those. So it was a difficult one, but it made everyone step back a bit because the large altnets were throwing money at these people
Correct.
to get business.
Correct. And why is that?
Because they have borrowed fortunes to put cables in the ground.
And they need penetration targets.
They write it off over, I don't know how many years, but it's not 3 years like we would have to write it off of. They go and do it. And I've been round and seen loads of them now.
Yeah.
And it is extremely difficult because most of them are living off of the fibre providers' websites.
Yeah, so the actual networks themselves, when the vans go out and they do their marketing,
Yep.
that's getting traffic onto the website, and then that points to the network's ISP. Their actual organic growth isn't coming in whatsoever.
Okay. So I was with one the other month that he gets 150 orders
From the network.
through the City Fibre website.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah.
But what they've forgotten about is they all keep dropping their prices.
Yeah.
So the average profit now, and this is a fact that they're making, is £5 a month.
Yeah.
But they're taking it on layer 2.
Yeah.
So now they've got the network costs on top.
Absolutely.
So that's another £2.
Yeah. If they're lucky.
Then they're using a company called Go Cardless for their collections.
Yes. Yeah. They are.
But they're well, I saw one yesterday at 62p a collection.
Yeah, they can be. Yeah.
Most of them are 42p. Well, I've got direct debit facilities that cost me about 8p.
Yeah.
But if you're making £5 a month, then you've got to take £2 out for network charges, then 50p for your you're actually making £2.50 a month.
Yeah.
Some of them give the first 3 months free.
Correct.
And they've got an 18-month or a 2-year contract. Yeah. But what they all forget about is you've got to buy a router.
Yeah.
And a bit of installation cost.
Yeah.
And when I've worked it out, and this is across a lot of people, it's cost £90 to acquire a customer just for the router and the installation charge. Yeah. So if you did 100 a month, what's that, £9,000 of cash you've got to find?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely bang on.
And that is where because City were paying for door knockers that all stopped and other people have, and it stopped. Just off their website, it's actually costing them £100 to do it.
Yeah.
They all start off and they get their spreadsheet and they say, when I'm going to get to 10,000 customers and I'm going to make £100,000 a month, and that's wicked because I'm going to make £10 a car. Genuinely is not there.
Yeah.
Then in the old days, if we had a talk base, we could sell it to Vodafone.
Yeah.
Or to BT if they needed the figures.
Yeah.
Or Daisy. You could play them off one against each other compared to their BT bonuses.
Yeah.
You can't do that with a cable company, because where can you move them to?
Yeah, because they're on full fibre. They've laid it purposefully where there's no other network and there's no other full fibre prop, and they're stuck.
So they all started off with the dream, and this cyber chap, I remember him on the phone when I offered to buy the company, wanted £900 a customer. Yeah. I use that sex and travel word that, starts with an F. And I won't go into great detail. But it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the point is, that's what they believe they've all set up to do.
Yeah.
Now, if you're only making £2.50 a month gross profit, if you gave someone £100 a customer, your mass isn't ready, but it's like 40-month payback.
Yeah.
How can you do it?
Yeah. And where do you think a lot of them had smoke and mirrors, assuming that they were modeling their marketing pieces were going to come through without
it's all digital, isn't it? I can do a bit of Facebook and I'm going to get all these orders through. Well, I think we get 0.01% conversion off the website.
Yeah.
However, we do put in, and this isn't bragging, it's fact, 3,213 net ads a month.
Yeah. Through what method?
A lot of them, I will get 26,000 leads in a full month. December, I only got 16. January, because it's slow, it was about 21. Okay.
Still through the same methods as you've always done. They've always had those relationships.
More of them. I've got more of them. And in a good month, I think I can get 30,000 leads a month now.
Yes.
And then I've gone back to the old-fashioned door knockers because I think this is really funny.
Right.
But it's small and controlled.
Yeah.
So let me get it right. We're bringing in about 60 a day.
Yeah.
Some of those are in Hull,
Mhm.
and some of them are in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
But we are going to do a big rollout with City in the next 2 weeks. It should start.
Fine.
That I've got to find them 12,500 customers that we can do. But we're going to have up to 100 door knockers.
Yep.
And they're going to have pictures of me on their lapel.
Yep.
And it'd be wicked. We're going to have some fun. So this industry, and because of Talk, I get to know a little bit of insights of what's going on. They're all sitting back. They're not. The altnets are going to start buying each other. We've seen a couple in the last few months. I believe I know about 20 of them going on.
Yeah.
And there's only 125 in total.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting there now, probably by the end of next week, with 95,000 customers.
Yeah.
There's only probably 3 or 4 altnets that have got more than that.
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
And I'm making money.
Yeah.
And they're struggling.
Yeah.
So to all you altnets out there, you can do it, but don't rely on it digitally.
No.
That is your challenge.
Yeah.
If it costs you very little to get, you're going to have to sell at a very cheap price.
Yes.
We've all seen over the years people like New Cool or whatever they were called, and they get 100,000 customers in a couple of years, all through compare sites.
Yeah.
And Origin was another one.
Yeah.
Compare site.
Yeah.
Compare site. But they forget that the compare site talks to them in a year or 2 years, and they all churn again.
Exactly that.
And if you've got 40% of churn, a lot of them have got more than that. I saw one the other day, 5.5% per month churn.
Yeah.
That's 60% a year.
Yeah.
How much extra cash you have to put into it just to make it stand there?
Yeah.
It is very cash hungry, and there is ways of doing it. I do it not relying on any compare sites at all.
Yeah.
So it is out there, but you can't just sit at home and hope it's going to come in on your Facebook page.
So, and on the field side then.
Actually, have I covered quite a lot?
No, yes, it's good. It's
Am I all right with my timing? My timing's okay.
What you want? You're on 42. Perfect.
That's good.
Yeah, it's really good.
Good.
It goes faster than you think as well, doesn't it?
I haven't told you about my internet dating, have I?
We can go into that. So for you, you're going back to the field. You've had experience in the field many, many years ago. You're going back into the field. Have you been doing field already, or is it something you're going to be starting?
I've been doing. I've been doing it in Northern Ireland and up in Hull.
Fine. For
the last 4, because we bought a company called Open Fibre that are based in Hull.
Yeah. When?
1st of October or the 31st of October, something like that.
Yeah.
But it's ended up that we've got now, with the other ones we bought, about 3,500 customers on the MS3 network in Hull.
Yeah.
Well, there's a large percentage of their base we've actually won.
Right. Yeah.
And it's very good because as they roll out new cables, our door knockers follow them down the road as they're connecting in the cables.
Is there any? Do you have any hesitations about using the fields? A lot of people that I speak to want to go down the field route, but they're slightly nervous. They think go live rates are going to be very, very low, and they also think it could damage their brand when people are knocking on the door. Depending on how do you manage a field sales team and try and remove those worries?
That is such fair points that you brought up there. To the extent, for our door knockers, we use the Fleur brand, and not our Home Telecom.
Do you still
brand.
have Fleur brand? Do you still have Eclipse brand?
Yes, I do. Yeah,
Fine.
with customers on them all. Yeah.
Yes. Right. Okay.
How they're split is the day that they bill. Home Telecom all gets billed on the 1st of the month. Fleur gets billed in the middle of the month, and Eclipse gets billed weekly because when we buy companies, some of them are billed daily.
Yeah. Why did
I
you never
just
go
do
down
it once
that
a
route?
week?
Why did you never go down the anniversary billing route that you see everybody trying to?
I thought with the small numbers, it just makes difficult credit control and everything else.
It does make difficult credit control.
So I'm very conscious of the brands, and I'd like to say that I have had 10,000 reviews on my Trustpilot.
Yeah, take my hat off to you on your Home
And
brand,
I'm sitting about 4.5 or 4.6. I normally sit at 4.6, but if I do a retail price index, a few people complain about me, like everyone else's.
Yeah.
If you've got that standard, what happens is every difficult one you get, I have to do 21 good ones to get it back again.
Yeah, bang on.
But I'm very proud. I have sold Global 4 to my son, but he is sitting there with a full 5 Trustpilot report. And if anyone would like to check, he's got the top one in the whole country over 5 or 6 of the categories.
Yep.
It's all Global 4.
Yep.
So I am very conscious of service. So the points you were bringing up about the door knockers. So we started last January with this firm that, got their sheepskins on and they did double glazing in the evening.
Yeah.
And I was getting a 47% cancellation
Yeah.
rate. And I was getting a lot of social media bad stick.
Yes.
So we looked at it. And then we started doing the verification calls ourselves.
Yeah. As soon as an order came in, you were on the phone. The timescales have any improvement on that?
Yeah. So the first thing you must do is take a deposit on the door. They don't like doing it because they get less orders.
The salesperson with a little card machine, or they just sign up?
Just on the web, and you put your DDs in, you put your credit cards in, and we started off at £9.99. So if they gave us £9.99 on the door, we've got a chance.
Yeah.
And then you've got to have the facilities to give them a very quick credit check. It doesn't need to be a heavy credit check, but where do they live? And there's no county court judgments, etc., against them. As soon as you take a deposit, the number of cancellations go down.
Yes.
Because they're serious about doing it.
Yeah.
So you take the money, then you've got to get it installed.
Yeah.
And this is when they say, I don't know about it, I forgot about it, I've cancelled it. And that is horrendous. So what you must do is have a conversation with these people 2 or 3 times during that 14-day cooling off period to make sure they're happy.
Physical conversation or emailing out comms? Or...
The emailing the comms are fine, but then they just turn around so they haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Just, hi, how are you? Just confirming the date. Hi, how are you?
Yeah.
We found it expensive to do,
Yeah.
but we're bringing in, I would say in Northern Ireland at the moment, there's an 18% cancellation rate, what's a big start. But in Hull, where we have more control over them, we're about an 8.5% cancellation rate.
Unheard of.
Okay?
Very good.
We take the verification calls.
Yeah.
We ask the questions that the door knockers don't ask. Are you in a contract at the moment? Because I'm used to estate agencies where they haven't got any contracts.
You got it, yeah.
So I've had to ask that.
Yeah.
Has it ended? Are you in the arrears?
Yeah.
And it is the point that you want it within 10 metres of the socket that comes in from the road, because otherwise they charge you extra.
Right, yeah.
And we tell them up front that if it's a missed appointment, there's a £150 charge.
Right.
As soon as if you're up front and honest with everybody,
Yeah.
and that's what we had to do with our photocopiers to get them right years ago when we had plain English contracts.
Yeah.
If you're not going to be here, are you sure you're going to, you pick that date, are you sure you're going to be there?
Yeah.
Fine. If you're not, ring us up to 3 days before and we'll cancel it, no problem at all. Won't be a contract until you start. But if you don't cancel it and we have to turn up and you're not here, there will be a £150 charge.
Yeah.
It changes the whole dynamic.
Yeah.
Because people know what they're entering into and they're not going to hide from you.
Yeah.
So the average door knocker will sign up about 1.8 a day.
Yeah.
So you've got to work out your 20s, your 30s, 40s or 8% conversions.
Mm-hmm.
We try and say that it's 30%.
Okay, yeah.
And just improve on that all the time.
That makes sense.
That is over a lot
Yeah.
of people and a lot of months monitoring it. So it is a good way to the marketplace because everyone goes online and understands it.
Yeah.
But the price is a race to the bottom.
Yeah. Your price isn't, or are you different price points depending on which network you're going across? Do you try and keep a blanket price? Because Home Telecom's not the cheapest, right?
No, and we still take £40, £50 deposits.
Yeah.
But I write 2,800 of those a month.
Yeah.
So I think ADSL's £24 a month.
Yeah.
And there's still 100 of those going out a month. It isn't about price, it's having your marketplace.
Yeah.
Selling it
Yeah.
But if you're just relying on your website, we're going back to a compare website, but a compare website, you have to pay for the deal.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get it from one of the altnets, you get the lead free of charge.
Yeah.
So they just keep knocking them down.
Yeah.
And then they're all going to have now the retail price index or RPI that comes in next month.
Correct.
Look at most of the sites, they say we don't do price increases.
Oh, yeah.
So how are they going to survive making £2.50 profit and they're going to get, what, 4 or 5% price increase?
Yeah. Do you have any pushback because of people still having telephone services or still having their TV bundled in? Have you managed to combat that? It's a hard one for almost everyone.
Well, we do sell Sky,
You do?
but we bill Sky. We buy it wholesale.
Do you? How long have you done that?
7 years, 8 years.
I think, can we say it on here as well? You are the only, somehow the
there
only
was someone else doing
ISP
it.
who can, not on Sky, but the only ISP that can wholesale Virgin somehow as well.
No, that's not true. I can't do the Virgin TV, but
but
I
the
can
broadband.
do the broadband, yes. And I've done that for about 2 years.
And that's on their full footprint.
Yeah.
Yeah, happy days. Telephone, have you managed to combat that?
Well, I'll just finish off on that. So
Please do.
what I can offer to the altnets is that we do the BT, the Vodafone, Sky, Virgin, Talk, and who else does traditional? Okay,
Yeah.
all the traditional people we've got. And with Talk buying me, not one of them has transferred over to the Talk network.
Yeah.
Talk now accept that we have to have all the networks available to us. So we could be a single point of a wholesaler. So my latest job is to go and link into people on layer 2 on the altnets.
You've done that very well.
Well, I bought 3 companies in the last month that have layer 2 and layer 3
They're their own
already.
network, so you're interconnecting.
And I have layer 3 on City that
Yeah.
no one else has got
Through
because I
TalkTalk.
get through TalkTalk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's important that because we're in the property moving sector, people might have Virgin in one property, and when they move in a year's time, they can't get Virgin.
Yeah.
And that's what's really held us, in the forefront. That one postcode checker can do most of them. I can't do lots of little altnets, but people like F&W have now come on, OF&L, Full Fibre,
MS3.
MSA. That's me exciting when I like Guy.
Yeah.
And City, and I've ended up through acquisition as being one of City's bigger partners.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, TalkTalk's their biggest. So, but my little bit has. So, yeah, like having the Virgin, just having the name on there.
Yeah.
But there's so much more competitive now around the Virgin because they've all got full fibre.
Yeah.
Where Virgin was £60 a month, some of these people are offering it for £24 a month. Take the VAT off, it's 20. They're making £1 a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's interesting.
It's very interesting.
If you don't want to know about the internet dating for 15 years,
Yeah, of course.
okay, 15 years
Yeah.
internet dating on sugardaddies.com,
Right.
and I travelled the world. Now, can you ever go on a date with 5 children? Meet your new mum.
No.
Because I've got 5 kids with me, and we had a wicked time. Because you can't bring other partners into your life when you're bringing young kids up. But did we have some fun? And my kids say, "Oh, Dad, it's you again." Because you go up to everyone and say, "Would you like to be their new mum?" It's a sort of a chat-up line.
Yeah.
And I think the funniest story of all was that, when you're on this internet dating and
Yeah.
you have a picture of what someone looks like, and you've got sort of picture of them, and you're never quite as you portrayed yourself to be, and they're certainly not.
Yeah.
So there's this lovely restaurant called Waterside up in Bray, and this lady, she looked weird. It was my dream.
Yeah.
I didn't take the kids, but so we arranged to meet, and I had been chauffeured them for years. But this lady walked down the road, and she wasn't quite as her picture.
Right.
So the chauffeur took her in for dinner, and I sat in the car and read the paper. And I've met so many interesting people over the years
Yeah.
because it's not all this flirty stuff, but people just want to be treated like adults.
Yep.
And when you have a divorce, one side always ends up worse than the other side and does it. Just to put some smart clothes on or a pretty dress and have adult conversation.
Yeah.
I found it really, really interesting for years, and I have literally flown all around the world on dates.
Through sugardaddy.com.
Through sugardaddies.com.
Right.
It's all the wrong thing because you all think you're absolute fortunes. Okay, well, we are a bit, but, they go to Dubai where you sit outside the hotels with all the smart cars.
Yeah.
They stand there and take their shirt off and they get their photographed by the car so they look as though they're theirs.
Oh, yeah. Is this still going?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, go and have a look online. I think it's a bit not as it used to be on GMTV. They used to talk about it, sugar daddies. Then they brought sugar mummies up, and
Right. And then
you're into this. You're smiling. You're meant to say Roger.
hold on. Right. Are you married now?
Yes, I met a lady. No, I did now, but
Yeah. You're not on the website anymore, though. You just
no. I go check. No, I used to have a good one because my name was Leggin. That was my code name, and of course that could look a little bit perverted.
Yeah.
But it's actually Nigel backwards.
Roger. Yeah.
So we got a Roger. Good. I was pleased about that. But so people always used to be a bit suspicious about that.
Yeah.
Of course, when you explain it, they think they're silly and it's all harmless again. But no. So to meet a new lady was very difficult because you can't bring other partners in. Well, I don't think you should other partners when you've got 5 kids. But I've got to tell you, they're my best friends.
Yeah.
I've had them together, and now
Do they all work with you?
3 do at the moment.
Yeah.
One's just gone to Australia this week, and one's got a Maldives travel company.
Yeah. Nice.
So I've got to go there next week to see some of his stock.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've all worked in the business, and you couldn't be prouder.
Yeah. Good.
And you always think they're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
But you want them to.
Yeah.
But young Pepper was the one who came up with Home Telecom and is a winner today.
Yeah.
And Carl, a few of them are met. God, do we fight and argue? He thinks he knows best. It's just one of those things.
Carl owns Global 4 now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And
he's bought some lovely companies in the last couple of years because people buy things because they want to be bigger and tell everyone I've got this turnover and that turnover. I didn't want that because mine's never been about money. All I wanted out of Global 4 was a really good wage and pay all my staff every month.
Yeah.
And that's what I did for roughly 20 years.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have big. I've done the big, done all of that. I just want to have a nice, steady company that I could pay the payroll at the end of the month, wouldn't have the pressures. You can see the accounts, how much he paid me. Yeah, really well. I was quite happy for years. And it was just that when I was getting to the end of my lifetime now, my son said, I think we ought to up it a bit. And then Home Telecom came back.
Makes sense.
And gone through the roof. And then because you've got a good trading record and you've paid your bills over the years, you can stretch yourself a bit.
Yeah.
And Carl has made some superb acquisitions.
Yeah.
I would like to think that he has enough on now that when everything's all billing, because it takes time to build up, it must be circa 50 million turnover.
Now?
Yeah. In the last 2 years, he's put a lot into it.
You've always been a bit of a go-to for acquisitions.
No, I'm dodgy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's me dating. That's why I learnt me verbals.
So we've worked on one together, and I think from your perspective, which I think you're kind of doing on the broadband world, but in the traditional reseller arm, you make acquisitions easy because you tend to have where people have dedicated wholesalers on products. You tend to have relationships with every wholesaler. So there's never a breakdown or a migration of customers away from someone's platform, which is attractive to the company you're acquiring so they don't get nervous with their wholesaler. And you're kind of doing that on the broadband side as well because you're partnering with near enough every bloody altnet out there. So
it's dating, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Yeah.
And you're right, but it's not quite that. But
what is it? What makes... You've been good at acquisitions. You've got a company set that is called Telecoms Acquisitions.
Well, that's my holding company, but that's just me still. I'm still the chap there with the spreadsheet doing the work. There's people that justify my figures.
Yeah.
But the truth of it is, how many people have actually sold a company before?
A lot.
Very few.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks it's worth a lot more money than it is. Then when you offer the money, they think they could have got a bit more elsewhere.
Yeah.
If they're snapping your hand off all the time, it means that they're quite desperate.
Yeah.
So I'm not interested in anyone's accounts or their balance sheets, because I've done all that for years, and you just dress it up so you don't pay as much tax as possible. Your accountant, you think he does an audit on it, and I'm not being disrespectful to them.
Yeah.
They only can do what they see.
Yeah.
They're not going to go and look into it. It's really the last 6 months of anyone's trading, because that tells you where they are today.
Yeah.
Where you've been.
Yeah.
And if you look at a simple old bank statement, you can see how much cash is coming in and how much cash is going out.
Yeah.
And I probably upset people when I first meet them, because I'm not desperate to do something, but get them to help them to understand their own business a bit more. And therefore, I'm quite lucky. Half a dozen or so the ones I've done, the people are still going, but they're putting the new business through me, so they're keeping their business sides going.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And they've just learnt such a lot, because they haven't all just set up doing residential. They've been doing business for some time.
Yeah.
And they've all gone, we can do a lot in residential. Where did I get my basis from? DWS, business, resident, KCOM. So they've all come from those different places.
Yeah.
So I think, because I'm an old man, I can look at people's figures very quickly. And it doesn't matter what you've done in the past and how much you've taken out and put in people's pockets, or if you paid ex-girlfriends or wives on the payroll. It's all been there.
Yeah.
What are you doing at the moment? How much gross profit you're making? That's so simple to sort out. Then I have the relationships with the altnets.
Yeah.
Then I can go back to them. They're all struggling because they've set all these businesses up and they haven't done a credit check on any of them.
Yeah.
If this is to check me out, if you go on someone like City's website, I promise you 3/4 of them, of those partners, haven't even filed a set of accounts.
Yeah.
Because they're new.
Yeah.
So you never do it for the first year, then you got 8 or 9 months, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in the old traditional world, if you went to Daisy and said, I want an account, and you're a brand new company, they would have checked you out, made you put a deposit down, pay on time.
Got to pay a bond. They still do it to this day, I think. You're not wrong.
So it is exciting. You just need a new breed of people, and they could just do with a little bit of support. And I think the manufacturers let them down.
Yeah, I think so, on the route side.
Well, little
people get
things
scale.
Like, they've got door knockers out there without a contract.
Yeah.
They haven't got scripts. They're not GDPR compliant.
Yeah.
But people like these major people must know what's needed.
Yeah.
Well, they can buy the expertise in. And if they gave them like a pack, here is your terms and conditions. You have to record your calls. You have to be PCI compliant. You can't say this on the door. You can't walk around with people's information on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Roger, you keep looking at the time. Am I running out?
No, you're good.
I was getting bored then. I was going to have a cigarette.
We'll end around the point.
Does that cover most of it?
Yeah, it does, yeah. That's spot on. We'll end around the point on where we think the broadband market's currently going. And so for me, I think it's a slight positive. Although there's going to be consolidation, I think there is going to be, or there needs to be, some centralised wholesaler that brings all these networks in and make it easy for people to have a layer-free offering for broadband. So, yeah, like we see it in the business world, we've got our choices of a few ISPs that all sit on OpenReach. There are no choices on the altnets, and especially in the consumer world, if I'm a utility warehouse type brand, at the moment, I probably only sell on OpenReach and City Fibre, but I can't easily go and buy a layer-free offering against all of these networks. And I think when that does come in, that will support the broadband industry to a degree, give people better choice.
Why?
So I think the push to a fuller fibre Britain, which I do believe in, I think it is our mission statement.
Otherwise, you wouldn't have a business.
Damn right, I wouldn't have one, no. I think it does need to be made easier, and there's a lot of challenges. There's some very talented brands and very talented sales operations that want to come into the broadband space, but it's such a messy, complex world as it stands. That wholesaler can really solve a problem.
But
And I hope we see it.
But that is available, okay, through quite a few of them now.
Yeah.
But it doesn't bring customers in the door. Okay? And that is the biggest problem.
Yeah.
You know, to get layer 2, layer 3, okay, it costs you 10 grand, you can have it sorted out or buy someone who's got. You're putting that up as a reason. It isn't the reason. The reason is it's very expensive to win a new customer.
Yeah.
And then you've got to fund it for the router and the install. Then we haven't talked about bad debt.
Yeah.
We don't talk about 1 in 10 people have a missed appointment charge.
Yeah.
1 in 10 people, there is a problem, a fault during the year.
Yeah.
You've got another 150. No one has ever explained that to the ISPs out there.
Yeah.
Every one of them owes the ISPs money.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, it's all these additional charges.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're used to it because Talk's done it to us for years, charged us for everything, and then we have to fight for it back again. We've been there, okay? They haven't.
Yeah, you're right.
So I understand that there will be a lot of consolidation.
Yeah.
But as they were saying the other day in a meeting, if someone's got an FTTC 80/20, how would the average household benefit from having a 1 gig?
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, we wanted to get into gaming. Let's take the gaming world on.
Yeah.
You don't need it now if you've got full fibre, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
So where we thought that was a marketplace, but we are really struggling as a group with 4.2 million customers, whatever it is, to upgrade from 80/20.
Interesting.
The price will come down.
I think as well, there's not enough. I think Ofcom are bringing out. Well, they're bringing out a reg to be able to say that you must put the network in the background and you must educate the consumer on exactly what broadband prop there was, because we went through that stage of fibre being rolled out 10, 15 years ago, and everyone thinks they're already on fibre. So I also think that's a problem. You say to them, "Well, come across to this gig product." Some of them are going too cheap for 30 quid. You might even save money in all fairness, but why do I need to? That's the challenge for us as a country. Well, it is going to prove
It is
your
an
lifestyle.
education thing.
Yeah.
Where everyone says, I want it,
Yeah.
you know and I know that if you actually look at how much they use, genuinely, they don't need it. If it's an egoistic thing, but then they're going to have an XL car in the drive instead of an L, or they're going to
Yeah.
have a sauna or a hot tub because they're those sort of people.
Yeah.
But, and I know that was generalising, but how can I put it? Yeah, it's nice to have, but it then comes down to how is Sky going to change? Is going more streaming?
Exactly that. It is going to become a need at some point. The more smart homes become available, everyone is starting to now move across to a streaming TV service. I think it is going to be needed. An FTTC at 80 meg, it's a condensed network. It doesn't give you much. It is,
But it's an education thing, isn't it?
It is an education thing.
But if we've got to put a new router in there and do an install up it, buying prices, there's only a few pound difference between an 80/20 and a 1. So we ought to go for it.
Yeah.
But it's just people don't wish disruption. So is that Roger and out?
Yeah, that's Roger and out. That's a good
You did
finish.
really well not doing the Rogers, didn't you?
I did, yeah. As soon as you said it, I've been...
I get people